Shape of Water took home top honors at the 90th Academy Awards, and with Pacific Rim Uprising just about to hit theaters, the time feels right for a Guillermo Del Toro deep dive. And with no wetsuit needed, here are 7 things you didn't know about Pan's Labyrinth. Probably. Back in 2004, with the success of Hellboy, the offers came pouring in for Guillermo del Toro to direct another superhero movie, but no one wanted to finance Pan's Labyrinth. He shelved it indefinitely after the suits just wouldn't pony up a proper budget for a violent fairy tale that wasn't kid-friendly or easily marketable. But oddly enough, what brought him back to the project was accidentally leaving his production notebook in the back of a taxi. He had the notebook for years, and it was filled with drawings and notes on what would become Pan's Labyrinth. Guillermo saw the event as cosmic punishment for considering a big-budget payday over committing to his passion project. Then, minutes after his epiphany, he got a call from the taxi driver to return the notebook. A clear case of karma at work. Or was it Guillermo's contact info and promise of a $500 reward on the inside cover? You decide. When Guillermo sat down to write Pan's Labyrinth, he drew from several inspirations, including Alice in Wonderland, David Copperfield, and The Wizard of Oz. But the character of the faun isn't meant to be the Greek god Pan, or Peter Pan, obviously. The character is never referred to as Pan, and the film's literal translation is the Labyrinth of the Faun. The idea actually came to Guillermo as a vision when he was very young. At around midnight, a faun would appear to him from behind a wardrobe in his grandmother's house, which is freaky enough on its own, but even more so when you consider that to work on Pan's Labyrinth, he turned down the opportunity to direct The Chronicles of Narnia, which straight up has a faun in a wardrobe in it. But Guillermo has also reported 2 real-life ghost encounters as well as seeing a UFO, so maybe this is all just par for the course in Del Toro world. On the subject of Guillermo's dark past, some of the most gruesome scenes of violence in the film actually stem from his first-hand experiences. Guillermo drew inspiration for this scene where Captain Vidal brutally beats a man with a bottle from a real street brawl where Guillermo and his friend got their asses kicked. While Guillermo was getting whipped by a chain, he looked up for a moment and saw his friend being beaten with a glass bottle. Though contrary to many Hollywood bar fights, this bottle never broke and the image always stuck with him. Also, this scene, where the tables turn on Captain Vidal, is based on his days volunteering at a mental hospital. Guillermo would eat his lunch every day at the cemetery next door, but the quickest route was through the morgue, which is, pretty typical teenager stuff, I guess. One day, Guillermo walked past a man in the morgue who had died from, you guessed it, a bullet to the face, which caused the man's eye to roll back. Ugh, and then he ate his lunch. Next thing, I gotta move on. The Faun is certainly a very iconic movie character, but the process of bringing him to the screen was far from effortless. With a very slim budget, Guillermo and producer Alfonso Cuarón put up $100,000 of their own money to get pre-production started. To make the very detailed costume, DDT Effects were able to cut costs by making the legs a physical part of the suit instead of making them completely CGI. This meant it not only took actor Doug Jones 5 hours every day to get inside the suit, he also stood on top of the Faun's legs like stilts so they could just remove his legs in post. The very loud mechanics inside the Faun's head also made it very difficult for Doug to hear co-star Ivana Baquero during their scenes. Not to mention that Doug was the only one on set who didn't speak any Spanish, so a linguist taught him all of his lines as well as Ophelia's so he would know when to respond. Ultimately, the lines were overdubbed, but Doug was determined to make sure the Faun's dialogue didn't look like a bad Godzilla movie.
It grabbed my friend! Really?
The practical creature effects and elaborate sets certainly take center stage, but the CGI also deserves a big shout out, even if just for the low carbon footprint. While filming this shootout in the mountains of Madrid, they were unable to use any real explosions or even blank cartridges for the gunshots because the area was experiencing its worst drought in 30 years. In fact, this explosion towards the end is the only real one they did, and they made sure it was their last shot for that location so they could pack up and leave before getting into trouble with the park ranger. And honorable mention goes to the CGI patch job here where the actor looked directly into the camera before leaving frame, which is, boom, a rookie move, dude. W.C. Fields famously said to never work with animals or children.
Get out of there! Get out of there!
And while Guillermo was very enthusiastic about working with Ivana, he would have to agree with the animals part. Guillermo credits this scene with his hatred of horses. Apparently, they were very nasty and dangerous and almost crushed this actor's pelvis by stomping on it. He said the actor was lucky to be alive and called the horses psychotic animals, regretting he ever put his actors in the same scene with them. Guillermo also hates cows, but no clear reason was given on that one, So we can move on. We've only got one more. Guillermo eventually gave up his entire salary to get Pan's Labyrinth finished, including any points on the back end. But he says the experience was all worth it thanks largely to Stephen King. At an early screening of the movie, Guillermo sat next to the famous horror writer, and during the Pale Man scene, Stephen King started squirming in his seat. Guillermo said King's reaction was tantamount to winning an Oscar, but maybe winning 2 real Oscars has lessened his pleasure of someone fearfully squirming in a dark theater, because that's kind of a weird thing to be into, Guillermo. That's going to do it for us. Hit the thumbs up if you were also scarred for life by the Pale Man scene, and let us know in the comments what your favorite Del Toro movie is, and we might just have some knowledge to drop on you. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to CineFix for more true-ish things about movies and sometimes psychotic horses right here on Things You Didn't Know.